All right, so we are going deep today. Like
Yeah.
deep, deep into Kundalini.
Kundalini.
Not just the what though, right?
Right.
Like how does this actually connect to like you and me? You know what I mean?
For sure. For sure.
And we've got a ton of sources, ancient texts, research on how these chakras activate. We've even got traditional uses of herbs. Real like mixed bag here.
Yeah, it really is fascinating. I think what's so cool about Kundalini is that it's not just this like out there abstract concept.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
this potent life force coiled at the base of your spine. And it's been talked about for thousands of years,
Mm-hmm.
especially in like Hindu and yogic traditions,
Yeah.
texts like the Upanishads.
And they really don't hold back with the imagery.
Oh, no, they do not.
Describing Kundalini as this like coiled serpent rising through these energy centers, the chakras. You know, I've always been struck by how often snakes show up like in cultures around the world. Like what's up with that?
Yeah, and it's like this. Think about the Egyptian Uraeus, the serpent on the pharaoh's crowns, or the Ouroboros, the snake eating its own tail. It's like a universal symbol.
Transformation.
Yeah, transformation, renewal, powerful energy, even if you're not super familiar with like the specifics of Hindu traditions.
So how do the chakras play into all of this? Like what's the connection with this Kundalini thing?
Well, picture this. 7 energy centers running from the base of your spine to the crown of your head. Each one influences a different part of your well-being.
Okay.
The first one, the root chakra, or Muladhara in Sanskrit.
Muladhara.
This one is all about grounding, stability.
So like if that one's balanced, I'm not going to get like swept up in all the chaos.
Exactly. It's that feeling of being rooted, having a solid foundation,
Okay.
so that you can handle stress, make good decisions.
I like that.
Then there's the sacral chakra, or Svadhisthana. This one governs creativity, passion, emotions.
So that's the one that gets blocked when I'm not feeling creative.
That is the one.
I gotcha.
All about expressing yourself authentically, tapping into joy.
I like it.
And then, of course, we have the very popular third eye chakra, Ajna. Intuition, perception, spiritual insight.
Ah, yes, the third eye. So they say activating that can really help you tap into like inner wisdom and seeing beyond, the normal everyday stuff. What's interesting to me is how Kundalini has these mystical roots, but even science is starting to kind of look into it a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, even Carl Jung, the famous psychologist,
Yeah.
he saw parallels between Kundalini awakening and the process of individuation, which is basically the journey of becoming a whole person.
Ah, so even for people who aren't, into the mystical stuff, that connection to psychology maybe makes it a little easier to relate to.
Absolutely, yeah. And some researchers even think that Kundalini awakening might be connected to your nervous system.
Oh, really?
Specifically the sympathetic nervous system, which is responsible for your fight or flight response.
Wait, so if I'm feeling like extra jittery, is that my Kundalini waking up? I'm kidding, kind of. But seriously, how would someone know? Like, what are the signs of a Kundalini awakening?
Well, everyone's experience is different, but some common signs are physical sensations like tingling, especially along your spine, or even like spontaneous movements called kriyas.
Oh, wow.
You might also feel some emotional shifts, heightened sensitivity, mood swings, or a deep sense of connection to like everything around you.
Yeah, I have a friend who does Kundalini yoga, and she talks about this like energy moving up her spine. And I have to say, some of these signs sound pretty intense.
Oh, yeah.
It's like our sources really highlight the importance of approaching this carefully and finding a good teacher.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah.
It is not something to just jump into without the proper preparation and support.
Definitely not. So let's talk about some of the ways that people explore Kundalini awakening, safely, of course.
Yeah.
What are those practices?
There are so many different approaches, and I think that shows how complex this concept really is. Meditation and breath work, or pranayama, those are usually considered the foundation. Then there's Kundalini yoga, developed by Yogi Bhajan, specifically meant to awaken this energy. And there are even practices with mantras, chanting, visualization, and focusing on particular chakras.
So much to explore. For someone just starting out, what would you recommend they try first?
That's a great question. I think starting with some simple breath work or guided meditation,
Okay.
focused on grounding and feeling your body.
Just like getting centered.
Exactly. The goal isn't to force the Kundalini to awaken, but to create the right environment for it to happen naturally and safely.
I like that. And what about things like lifestyle changes? Do those play a role?
Yeah, definitely. Diet and lifestyle really affect your energy and your overall well-being,
Hmm.
which is super important when you're navigating all the intensity of a Kundalini awakening.
Makes sense.
And speaking of navigating that intensity, our sources actually go into a fascinating aspect of this.
Oh,
The use of herbs in traditional practices like Ayurveda.
herbs. That's interesting. I've heard of ashwagandha helping with like stress and anxiety. Could that be connected?
That's a great example. Ashwagandha is an adaptogen, meaning it helps your body manage stress,
Right.
which can be really helpful during a Kundalini awakening. It's all about supporting your nervous system as you're going through these intense energy shifts. Another one is Gatu Kola.
Kutu kola. What's that one about?
So in Ayurveda, it's considered a brain tonic known for enhancing mental clarity and supporting the crown chakra,
Oh, the crown chakra.
that center of higher awareness.
So, like, ashwagandha helps you stay grounded, Gotu kola expands your awareness. Intriguing. Are there other herbs that are traditionally used?
There are quite a few.
Wow.
One that really stands out is holy basil, or tulsi.
Hmm.
Really revered in India. It's said to bring harmony to the mind, body, and spirit. And it's often associated with the third eye chakra, the center of intuition and insight.
It's like these herbs give us a peek into how traditional practices approach Kundalini, supporting the process on all these different levels.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's a good reminder that if you're using herbs for this, do it responsibly, always with guidance from a qualified practitioner.
Absolutely. So we've covered a lot. We've talked about the ancient origins of this whole Kundalini thing, the role of the chakras, the connection to psychology, and even your nervous system. We talked about the signs of an awakening and some of the practices and herbs that can support you. What's the main thing you want people to remember from all of this?
I think the key takeaway is that Kundalini isn't just some far-out concept. It's about tapping into a deeper level of awareness and understanding within yourself. And even if you're not searching for some full-blown Kundalini awakening, the practices and ideas tied to it, from meditation and yoga to those fascinating herbs, can be incredible tools for self-discovery and personal growth. It's all about finding what works for you and taking those little steps towards understanding this powerful energy that we all have inside us.
It really is fascinating how this whole Kundalini concept connects like ancient wisdom to modern science, personal growth to spiritual exploration. It's like a thread through all these different parts of human experience.
What really gets me is how Kundalini makes us think bigger about what's possible within us and in the universe.
It reminds us that we're not just physical, we're energetic beings too.
Yeah.
And that energy, that life force, isn't just an idea, it's something we can tap into. Cultivate it, use it to actually transform our lives.
Exactly. And, speaking of transformation, one of the things that's always blown my mind about Kundalini is how different it can be for each person.
Right.
It's not like a one-size-fits-all kind of experience.
Right. From the physical stuff to emotional shifts to profound spiritual insights.
Right.
It seems like there are endless possibilities. I wonder if even with all those variations, are there any common threads or patterns?
That is a great question. And while there are no guarantees with Kundalini awakening, certain themes tend to come up again and again throughout history and across different traditions. For example, the idea of purification is often mentioned.
Purification, what do you mean by that?
Well, it's described as this process of letting go of old patterns, beliefs, even emotional baggage that's no longer serving us. It's like cleaning out the clutter so that Kundalini energy can flow more freely.
So it's not just about activating this energy, it's also about clearing out whatever's blocking it.
That's it. And this purification can show up in different ways. Some people experience intense emotional releases, while others might go through periods of deep introspection or even physical purging. But it all boils down to this letting go of what no longer serves us to make space for growth and change.
That makes sense. It's like preparing the soil so the Kundalini can really take root and grow. This whole thing is making me rethink personal growth and spiritual exploration. It's not just about knowledge or rules, it's tapping into something way deeper within us.
I completely agree. Carl Jung, who we talked about before, he called this process of individuation a journey of integrating different parts of ourselves, including the shadow self.
The shadow self, what's that all about?
So Jung thought we all have this hidden part of us. That holds the aspects of our personality we usually repress or deny, the stuff we don't like to look at.
Right.
It's usually connected with what we see as negative qualities: anger, fear, selfishness.
Okay, so how does this shadow self connect to Kundalini awakening?
Well, as the Kundalini energy rises, it can bring these shadowy parts to the surface.
Oh, wow.
This can be really challenging because it forces us to confront things about ourselves that we'd rather keep hidden. But it's also a super powerful opportunity for healing and growth.
So it's like the Kundalini is shining a light on those hidden parts, those things we're afraid to look at.
Exactly. And by bringing those shadows into the light, we can start to make them part of our whole self. This integration is key to becoming a fully realized person.
That's a deep concept.
It is.
Makes me think that Kundalini awakening isn't just about bliss and enlightenment, it's also about facing those dark parts of ourselves and finding a way to accept them. Yeah.
Exactly. It's a journey of confronting our limits, our fears, our deepest wounds. But through facing and integrating them, we come out stronger, more whole, and more authentically ourselves. It's important to remember this journey isn't always easy, and that's why having the support system is so important.
Yeah, that makes sense. You wouldn't want to go through it alone. Speaking of support, I'm curious about the role of community. Our sources talk about all these lineages and different schools of thought around Kundalini. What's the point of these lineages?
They're actually really important for keeping and passing on the teachings and practices related to Kundalini. They often provide a structure for understanding this concept that's both complex and multifaceted.
Okay.
They offer guidance and support for those exploring this path.
So it's more than just reading or watching something. It's about connecting with a tradition that's been passed down for generations.
Exactly. These lineages are full of knowledge and experience that can be so valuable for those trying to figure out the details of Kundalini awakening.
Yeah.
They give a sense of community, support, and accountability, which are all essential for this journey.
Sounds like finding a legit teacher or lineage could be a big step for someone serious about exploring Kundalini.
Absolutely. A good teacher can offer personalized guidance, answer questions, and help with any challenges that pop up.
Right.
They can also help you adjust the practices to fit your needs and your constitution.
So it's not a one-size-fits-all thing?
No, not at all. Kundalini awakening is a deeply personal thing, and a skilled teacher can help you navigate it in a way that's safe, supportive, and aligned with your unique path.
Now, even though a teacher's important, we can still do things on our own to support this journey. We've talked about meditation and breath work. But what about things like diet and lifestyle? Do they matter for Kundalini awakening?
Oh, absolutely. They can really affect your energy levels, emotional well-being, and your overall health. All of those are super crucial for this journey. In fact, Ayurveda, which we mentioned before, puts a lot of emphasis on the connection between our physical, mental, and spiritual well-being.
So it's not just what we do during meditation, it's how we live our whole life.
Exactly. Ayurveda gives us this holistic framework to see how our choices, from the foods we eat to the thoughts we think, can either help or hurt our well-being, including our energy balance.
That's pretty powerful. It means we have a lot more control in this than we might realize. We're not just along for the ride.
Love that way of looking at it. And I think that's an important message for anyone into Kundalini. It's not about waiting for something to happen to us. It's about making choices that help create transformation.
Okay, so let's talk about some of those choices. What's some specific diet and lifestyle tips that might help someone exploring Kundalini?
Well, according to Ayurveda, a sattvic diet is often recommended for spiritual growth and balancing energy.
Sattvic diet. I haven't heard that one before. What's that?
It's all about eating fresh whole foods that are easy to digest and promote clarity and lightness in the body and mind.
So like a lot of fruits, vegetables, whole grains.
You got it.
Yeah.
And foods that are naturally sweet, calming, and nourishing. Ayurveda suggests cutting back on processed foods, caffeine, alcohol, and super spicy or heavy foods,
Okay.
because those can mess with your energy balance.
Makes sense. It's about choosing foods that nourish us instead of taking away our energy.
Yeah,
What about lifestyle stuff? Are there certain practices or habits that are helpful?
absolutely. I think one of the most important things is having a routine
Yeah.
that supports your overall health. That means getting enough sleep, managing stress, and doing things like yoga, meditation, or even just being in nature.
Sounds like it's about creating a lifestyle that promotes balance in every way.
Exactly. And self-care isn't selfish, it's necessary. Taking care of ourselves creates a strong foundation for our spiritual path.
It's like building a solid base camp before climbing Mount Kundalini.
I love that.
Yeah.
Because it really is a journey, and like any adventure, it needs preparation, commitment, and being okay with getting out of your comfort zone.
Speaking of getting out of our comfort zone, I'm curious about any challenges or potential pitfalls someone might encounter. Our sources say Kundalini awakening can be pretty intense, even overwhelming sometimes. What should people be aware of as they explore this?
That's a great question. And it is important to talk about those potential challenges. While Kundalini awakening can be amazing and transformative, it can also bring up intense emotions, physical sensations, and even psychological shifts that are tough to handle.
So it's not all rainbows and butterflies.
Definitely not. It's super important to be realistic and remember that change isn't always smooth sailing.
What are some of the specific challenges people might run into?
Well, like we said before, purification can be pretty intense. As that Kundalini energy rises, it can stir up old emotional wounds, trauma, limiting beliefs that we've maybe been holding on to for years.
So it's those shadows we talked about. They're not just hiding, they're coming right at us.
Exactly. And while confronting those shadows can be healing, it can be super uncomfortable, even painful at times.
Having support during those times would be so helpful.
Absolutely. That's where a qualified teacher or a therapist can really make a difference.
Right.
They can give you a safe and supportive space to process all those intense emotions and help you get through those tough moments.
So it's not about trying to push through it alone. It's about asking for help when we need it.
That's it. And remember, those challenges aren't necessarily a bad thing.
Okay.
They're often part of the process of transforming and growing. It's like working out a muscle. It might be sore at first, but that soreness is telling you it's getting stronger.
I like that. It's a reminder that growth can be uncomfortable, but that discomfort can make us change for the better. Are there other things people should be aware of besides emotional challenges?
Yeah, a few other things come to mind. One is getting caught up in spiritual ego,
Okay.
thinking we're special or better than others because we're on this path.
So, like, the danger of letting Kundalini awakening make our egos bigger instead of making us more humble.
Exactly. It's so easy to start thinking we're more enlightened or evolved, which can lead to being arrogant and disconnected for people around us. We need to remember that this is about connecting more deeply with ourselves and all beings, not separating ourselves from others.
That's a good point. Humility is important for any spiritual practice.
It is.
What are some other pitfalls?
Another common one is getting overly attached to certain experiences or insights that come up during Kundalini awakening.
Like, what do you mean?
Say someone has a really profound mystical experience during meditation.
Okay.
They might get so hooked on that experience that they try to recreate it over and over again.
Oh, like getting addicted to a spiritual high.
Exactly. The issue is that this attachment can actually hold us back on our journey. It stops us from being present to our experience as it is and embracing all that Kundalini awakening can offer.
It's like holding on to one wave instead of going with the flow of the whole ocean.
Love that analogy. That's exactly it. It's about being open, curious, and not getting too attached as we go through this journey.
So it's not about controlling the process, it's about surrendering to it.
That's it. And that could be hard for a lot of us,
Yeah.
especially in our culture. That's all about control and achievement. But in the end, it's through surrender that we truly open ourselves to the power of Kundalini.
It makes me think of a snake shedding its skin.
Yeah,
It's not about holding on to the old, it's about letting go and letting something new come through.
that's a beautiful way to put it. It's about embracing the way growth and change happen in cycles, knowing that sometimes we need to let go of things to make room for new beginnings.
And speaking of new beginnings, I'm curious about what happens after a Kundalini awakening. Is it like a one-time thing or an ongoing process?
That's a great question. And just like a lot of things related to Kundalini, the answer is it depends on the person.
Right.
For some, Kundalini awakening might be a sudden and huge event that's a turning point. For others, it might be more gradual, unfolding over time.
Yeah, there's no set time frame or finish line?
Nope. And even after a big awakening, the journey keeps going. It's not like you hit a certain point and you're done.
Right.
It's a constant process of growth, integration, and expanding.
So more like a spiral than a straight line.
Love that visual.
Yeah.
It's about coming back to the same themes over and over, but each time we understand them better.
Like the Ouroboros, that snake eating its tail.
Exactly.
It's a symbol of the cyclical nature of this whole process. We're always shedding old layers, taking in new insights, and becoming our fullest selves.
That's a great way to think about it. And remember, this journey isn't just about growing as individuals. It's also about how we're connected to something way bigger than us.
What do you mean by that?
Well, Kundalini awakening is often described as expanding our consciousness, connecting to a feeling of unity, oneness, even the divine. It's realizing that we're not separate. We're all interconnected, part of this vast web of life.
So it's about going beyond our ego and seeing that we're all connected.
Exactly. And that realization can be incredibly freeing and powerful.
Right.
It can help us live with more compassion, purpose, and meaning.
It sounds like Kundalini awakening isn't just about personal change. It's about changing how we see the world, seeing ourselves and everything around us in a whole new way.
I totally agree. It's a journey of expanding our awareness, understanding who we are better, and waking up to all the possibilities within us and around us.
As we wrap up this part of our deep dive, what are some key things you want to leave our listeners with?
Well, I hope people have a better grasp on the challenges and potential roadblocks that can pop up along the way.
Right.
It's so important to approach Kundalini awakening with respect, humility, and being willing to embrace the whole experience, both the good and the bad.
And it's not about trying to force things or be in control. It's about surrendering to our own inner guidance and asking for help from qualified teachers and practitioners when we need it.
You got it. It's about recognizing that everyone's journey is different and there's no one right way to do it.
So it's not about following rules or trying to fit in. It's about honoring our own path and trusting the unfolding of our own unique journey.
Beautifully said. And remember, even with all the challenges, the journey of Kundalini awakening is all about remembering who we really are.
Yeah.
Infinite beings of light and love connected to everything and everyone.
It's amazing how we started with this like almost mythical image of Kundalini, you know, the coiled serpent. And now we're talking about really personal, practical parts of this whole journey.
Yeah.
It's not just about the energy, it's about our minds, it's about our choices, it's about the shadows we have to deal with.
And it's about understanding that Kundalini isn't like out there somewhere. It's inside each of us.
Right.
That potential to change, to become more aware, it's already there, just waiting to be awakened.
You know, as we've been talking, I've been thinking about the people listening, and I bet some are feeling a little overwhelmed.
Oh, yeah.
It's a lot to absorb. What would you say to someone who's feeling that way?
I totally get it. This stuff is deep.
It is.
But the good thing is, you don't need to understand everything all at once.
Right.
Or jump into the most intense practices. Start small. Find what speaks to you.
So it's not about forcing Kundalini to awaken.
No, it's more like setting the stage.
Yeah.
Creating the right conditions for it to happen naturally. And those conditions will look different for each person.
Right.
Maybe it's starting to meditate each day, trying gentle yoga, or even just being out in nature more.
Yeah.
Listen to yourself. Honor your own pace.
That's such good advice. And that ties back to what we were saying before about finding a good teacher or lineage. If you're serious about exploring Kundalini, they can make the process feel safe and help you along the way.
Exactly. Having a good teacher is like having a guide, offering wisdom, support, and a way to understand this complex thing.
So as we finish up this deep dive into Kundalini, what are your final thoughts for our listeners?
I hope people understand that Kundalini awakening isn't just about reaching some mystical state of enlightenment.
Yeah.
It's about living a life that's more fulfilling, more authentic, more connected.
It's about realizing that potential we all have for growth and change.
Right.
And using it to make our lives more meaningful and joyful.
Exactly. It's about waking up to who we really are and living in a way that aligns with our highest potential. And remember, the journey matters just as much as the destination.
I like that.
Embrace the process, go at your own speed, and trust that the universe is always helping you along the way.
Beautifully said. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Kundalini. We hope we've made you curious and inspired you to explore more. Until next time, keep diving deep.